This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force podcast. My name is Rachel Paskvan, and I am your host. And today I am being joined from down under in Australia with the amazing Elinor. She is a spiritual guide and founder of Truth of You, and dedicated herself to deep self-exploration and power reclaimment. She's done work in breaking free from patriarchal conditioning and helping women reclaim their voice, which we love and we really need right now in 2025 for sure. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. But Elinor, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, and it happens to be International Women's Day here, and it is for
Perfect.
you the next day. And I always find the conversations, the mainstream conversations around days like this quite distorted and quite imbalanced. And there is so much to be said. So this is great energy being cultivated on today,
I
but
love that.
for our collective, for both,
You
because
know, so many,
there's the yeah, there's much to say on both sides. So yeah, great to be here. Thank you, Rachel.
of course. So tell the audience a little bit about your background and how, you've ended up now where you are and what you're doing.
Breakdowns, and at the time they were not wonderful at all because it throws you into this liminal dark space that there is no ground. And these were brought to you by my unconscious because I thought I was living a life that was me. I thought that I was me in the world. I presented the strong, independent, power dressing woman. I don't need no one to tell me what to do kind of thing. That was a complete illusion, and I fooled myself. And the trickster archetype was absolutely running the show for a very long time. But at what cost? At the cost of soul, at the cost of heart, at the cost of voice, at the cost of your own the power of our energy center as women. We have the womb space. This is a portal for life essence itself. At the cost of so much of myself that there was no me left in my reality. And the universe definitely gave signs. It gives you a feather tap, a light tap, it sits you down for a coffee. Then you don't pay, attention to any of that. And I was overseas and I had to get out of the environment. And when I was overseas at 32 on a family holiday with my parents, that alone should raise alarm bells. It was the concept of the devouring mother, which was presented to me by my then best friend, now partner and business partner, Daniel. And that's what started to spin me, realizing that I have been completely devoured. It's not that I have been, taken piece by piece. It's just all been gone at once. And the mother wound is the biggest aspect, astrologically for me. But that is when I realized that the conscious forces had absolutely fried themselves. And I cried from my soul that day. And the unconscious forces came to aid. And that's when the path opened up. That's where I did not know how I would, quote unquote, get out of this, but I knew I would. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing anything beforehand. I did the affirmations and meditations, the chakra clearing. I did the light duty stuff. But
You
it
did all the
was
things.
I did as much as I did all the conventional models, the
Yeah.
five-step framework, the wake up earlier, the set your alarms until you wake up. I did it all, and nothing was shifting because conventional models only deal to shallow problems. And sometimes for women individually and collectively, we are dealing with cosmic problems over lifetimes, and that needs deep models.
We just have so much going on in our brain. Like we're the class A multitaskers with so
Mm.
much going on, and we're repressing because we have to move on to the next thing and handle this and handle that. So it's only understandable that we're all having breakdowns all the time. Case point, we're doing it all the time.
And
So
we need it. We are wired differently. But yeah.
yeah, no, we are very wired differently. You often say that empowerment is a bastardized term, which I loved, and I wrote this down specifically. So can you explain what you mean by that?
Originally, the term is still beautiful when we think about it, but originally it referred to granting genuine power, our life essence, our birthright, agency to center ourselves in our own reality or resources so that we could take back control in a healthy way of our lives. But over time, this concept has become diluted, commodified, beautifully packaged in a five-step framework and
Yeah.
this. And if you just have a high-ticket investment, you'll become empowered. And it's also been weaponized. So it's a corporate buzzword. So companies use the term empowerment to make employees feel valued without actually giving them autonomy, decision-making power, or fair compensation at times. So it becomes a tool for pacification rather than real change. It's a self-help and marketing gimmick. Many self-help gurus and coaches sell empowerment as a product, so they make it seem like an individual issue rather than addressing systematic or structural barriers that actually disempower people in the first place.
That's so interesting.
Superficial. Yeah, I've got a few more points. I love this question so much. This could be a whole show.
Love it. I'm like,
Superficial.
my wheels are spinning right now.
That's what we want for the audience and everyone listening. Um, Superficial activism. So there's so many spaces and movements and everything where empowerment is used as a feel-good term that doesn't lead to any tangible action. So we can all sit here and spin our wheels, but this can actually be used to make minor performative changes, but the deeper structural reforms that actually need to happen for our collective are not even looked at because, oh no, that's too much, that's dirty work. I only want the corporate C-suite, $500,000 pay pack as a CEO. But what about the men who work in unsafe conditions and are risking their lives? That also needs, they also deserve
Yeah.
empowerment. Why should anyone work in conditions where they fundamentally do not know if they're coming home that day? And they have to do it because of economy, for example. Toxic positivity. So this is so twisted and distorted, and I can say too much on this, but it makes it seem like we have to be so self-reliant at all costs. It's like, fuck the system. Oh, sorry, if you want to cut that out.
Nope. Love it.
Um,
Bring it.
or, I don't need anyone and I'm just going to struggle by myself. And instead of acknowledging these external factors, like there's oppression, there's trauma, there's inequality, it goes on. But then the last point, which it, again could be a whole topic, or all of these could be whole topics within themselves. I'm really, giving a high level overview, is this empty feminism. So empowerment is marketed to women, especially, but just so they could feel confident and buy the right products and adopt a certain attitude. But again, it's not addressing the individual issues or the collective issues that disempower them in the first place. And most of us were born into disempowering situations. We didn't choose this, but we're here. So this is more than a motivational slogan. This, if we're using the word correctly, needs to point in a real shift in power and agency.
No, and I think the toxic positivity is so poignant right now just because everything that's going on, like in the world, especially in America, we've got tariffs coming up that are like increasing prices. And then we've got all of the layoffs. I was just affected by a layoff, and like it's the toxic positivity that's what's killing me with you're going to find something great. You're going to bounce back and it's going to be a look and you're going to do great. Who knows, you might find your dream job. This was my dream job. What are you all talking about? This was my dream job. Go to Bali for 6 months. I'm not going to Bali for, have we met me? I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, I can't sit still. I'm like, I literally washed my washing machine with a Q-tip today to like make sure it was clean. That's how bored I get. Like, I have to have a lot of things to do. I'm like, do any of you actually know me? I'm like, we don't know. And I'm like, and just, I want to hear, this sucks. They suck. It's their
Mm,
loss.
mm,
Burn everything down, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you scream.
mm.
Like, that's what
Yeah,
I want to hear. I want to hear this
yeah.
is for the best. I don't think it's for the best, but thank you so much. Super helpful.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, you know what? Go sit in the shit. Go yell. Go and that blame. Like, sometimes there is a party to be blamed. Like my partner has taught me that, we're taught that, blame is low frequency and all of that. But we can't get to high frequency without going through the low frequency
Yeah.
first. So if you want to sit and blame and point the fingers, you have the free will to do that as you have the free will not to.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'm at the stage of anger. So blaming everybody. It's great.
Mhm.
Very cathartic.
More
But
power to you. You need
exactly.
this.
You were talking a little bit about power before and how, can't be found externally. So many women chase symbols of power, like titles, wealth, their image, all that. Like, I am definitely one of them. Why do you think this leaves them, like them and us and me, feeling really unfulfilled when you get laid off or you have a kid and then you're like, it's just a job. And you have this realization that's something that you've worked so hard for and really made a core part of your identity, it doesn't even matter.
If we look at tarot, so the major arcana, we have the magician archetype, and it has its place in our life. Ego's got to eat. You have, the first thing when we jumped on, when we connected, was the posters on the wall. That means something to you. You have made meaning out of this, and it's important to you. If we strip that down, maybe Rachel wouldn't feel so great in her studio. So if that allows you to do what you need to do, then more power to you. It has its place. At the same time, someone can get a crystal, and they had this crystal when something wonderful happened to it, and they're channeling their intention and belief into it. Are you harming anyone? Absolutely not. Go for it. If wearing a certain, item of clothing and certain makeup makes you feel, a lot better for yourself, but it's not masking the internal, shit show, then more power to you. That's all good. So these tools, they have their place in life. We're not here sitting and, let's all go live at an ashram and just meditate all day. If someone wants that, again, go for it. It's all good. But we also need to incorporate the next archetype in the major arcana, which is a high priestess. And this is our internal connection. Then we can start manifesting the Empress as abundance. How do most people operate today? They go to the Empress. I want the abundance. I want the paycheck. I need this car and this house and I live in this postcode and I need to chase this, chase. But let's go back. What about the high priestess? How is our inner self? Whichever part of that we want to talk to is experiencing our current reality. Now, the external world, that is also a reflection of the masculine, and we're not here to bash the masculine because it could be a beautiful expression. But when it's done without the inner world online, then it's out of balance. And then we create a void that is very hard, very depleting, completely out of alignment, and the wheels start falling off.
Well, and you have to have both, don't you? Like the femininity and the masculinity in you. And I mean, to have harmony and all of that, you're supposed to have a balance of both in both whatever gender you choose.
That's right.
And so I think that's so interesting that you look at like that, and especially how society has structured like feminine power. I mean, we talked a little bit about in our pre-interview the historical silencing of women, the oppression, not being able to vote, all the way down to like the witch trials and things like that, that hold such significance in our history, but like really say things about how women have been suppressed and silenced for over years. So how has the distorted patriarchy crushed divine feminine energy? And what does it mean to reclaim it?
You ask brilliant questions. I love this. I feel like just so much flow here, and thank you so much. Let's use astrology instead of tarot as an example. So masculine power is known through astrology as the sun ruling the day and Saturn ruling the night. So Saturn is, discipline, structure, rules. We do it this way, and there is nothing else there to be done. So we think of the sun as the leadership aspect. We rally those around us. We bring people to our cause. And then we have Saturn ruling that, though, through control and discipline. Now, what has happened is we see a domination of control and limitation and rigidity in the current expression of patriarchy that doesn't account for the emotional state. So under this patriarchy, the distorted patriarchy, and some parts of it are healthy and beautiful, and they are probably running as they need to. It's not 100% of this. So what we're actually seeing is an overuse of Saturn, of control and limitation and rigidity. And what happens? Our emotional state, which is then the mother. This is the moon. Not just the moon, but Mother Earth. If we're looking at planets, even though Earth isn't one of the planets in astrology, but that's okay. The mother is under threat in these energies. What happens when you control something that there is no life force in it? There is rape. Look at how we rape the earth. Look at how many men and women experience that in situations which should be safe. And I don't have enough facts or anything about that. But how many women are taken advantage of because they're people pleasers. So they will become the workhorse. So they will become the perfect person. And you know what? They don't have kids, so it doesn't matter that they want to have a life after work. And that, I would say that more women experience that rather than men. So
1000%, because they're being great dads by wanting to go home and spend these things. And I mean, I've always worked in a male dominated, male viewed industry. And I can remember in the beginning of my career, I worked every single holiday because I was like, oh, well, you've got kids. So like you should be home with your family. And then after like 6 years of that, I was like, wait, guys, like I should be home with my family too. Like I should get to celebrate at least one holiday with them. Like Halloween, we can
yeah.
pass. I'm like, but I should get Thanksgiving or Christmas at the least. One holiday, guys.
Yeah.
But it took me a
And then
while.
men also,
Yeah.
yeah, and then men also like sometimes they're celebrated, and sometimes they're not as well. And it's just as painful for them when they want to go nurture and be with their kids, and then they're shamed. They're, being given the walk of shame. So it works both ways. But absolutely. So these distortions play out in very insidious ways where ultimately the mother figure is much under threat.
I mean, and just what you said about like this is like societal expectations too, and like losing yourself in that. That's why I think we come to those, the hitting point of a breakdown or turning, and then we need to turn to our spirituality. And you've talked about how you lost yourself through breakdowns, and we've all been there. We're all doing it through, but not in your true self. What was your turning point?
It was realizing that I haven't existed in my own reality. And it wasn't through not trying. It wasn't though I've never picked up a book, never tried to get out of this own mental caging that had been constructed for me. And then you realize that this problem is bigger than the ego self, that I need to call in more forces, that I need to explore lifetimes to understand how come that someone like me does not have the things that are so, I guess, basic. And yet,
Yeah.
there is, food, shelter, and everything.
Mhm.
And before I go on, this isn't coming out of a place of complaining. I have been so grateful that I've become, overly grateful, but then you're still unfulfilled. And this brings me to a comment that I saw on LinkedIn, and she was comparing, oh, how could people who live in their childhood bedroom complain when there are homeless people? I am the one experiencing my reality. Rachel is the one experiencing her reality. Homelessness is an epidemic that the amount of advocacy and money is clearly not fixing. So there are great, again, pointing in the direction of greater issues. But if we play this game of my trauma is bigger than your trauma, so your traumas don't matter,
Yeah.
then we're just gaslighting each other into silence and submission and oppression. So for you, you have lost your job. That is temporarily or whatever it means for you right now. That is the biggest thing happening in your world right now. That is infinitely big. But to someone who's sitting on a trust fund, it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
it's infinitely small to them. So we need to be able to hold different perspectives for where people are at and what their own breakdown means to them at their point in their life. And there is this deep lack of honor in acknowledging and locating where people are at in the totality of their experience of reality. And that's where I found myself because society did a very good job of telling me, you're successful. You have all these things. You did it. You did this and now you want to throw it all away and now you want to do this and you're unhappy. You should be happy. You should be grateful, happy, positive, get over it, just
Yeah.
affirm, just do a vision board, on and on and on and on. And it's like, no, you are missing the point that I am fundamentally I've come into this life with a template of disempowerment, and that involves cosmic level cleaning to get myself back online because I have not existed in the way that people think they exist.
I mean, and that's insane that like we're still at that point and it's like 2025. And I mean, you took a look and did like deeper self-exploration and, needing it beyond the surface comparative to like just traditional therapy or talking to your friends and things like that, which are also beneficial. But like doing the deeper work, when people get to the point where they decide, like, I'm going to turn to spirituality, but still feel, stuck in those external pressures, what's missing from the process for them?
No, great question, because there's a lot of spiritual bypassing, and I've been there, and there's a lot of new age spirituality, which is like, no, I don't want to look at the dark stuff because then I'll manifest more in my life. It's like, no, that's not how the alchemical process works either. Let's establish the baseline. What is spirituality? What is spirit even? People don't have that relationship before they know what to turn to. So when we're turning to spirituality, what are we turning to? So Daniel my partner came to an enormous re revelation. And this doesn't sound so enormous, but when you connect to it on the deepest level, it can absolutely, you know, make you feel like you are being spirit incarnated. And it is the act of being alive, of feeling alive. You live in a major city, so you probably see it every day. People, just the masses on the train, on their phone, going to dead-end jobs that they don't care about. Is that aliveness? Is that what makes humanity feel alive? There's a lot of questions that can be
Yeah,
asked.
1000%. I mean, and the reflections of it when you sit around and you're like, this is my life every day
Mm, yeah.
on this
Or,
wheel.
the corporate person who wants to make everyone life miserable because their life is ultimately so miserable. Like, there's so many examples, but turning to spirituality captures and remembering what it means like to be alive captures so much of what the work is. This is the great work, because if we don't feel alive doing the work, then we're not really doing the work. And it is also about finding the aliveness in the mundane, but we're not counterbalancing. So, talking about why it doesn't work sometimes, because yeah, there are external pressures. Ego has to eat. Rachel said she's doing a podcast.
Yep.
Podcast needs to be done. You need to act in the world in a certain way. But when we're not counterbalancing this with the internal need, this is when we create a seesaw. So I have been there where I have completely fallen into ego character and have just been consumed by the 3D. And then what happens with my internal state? I try to shove it down, push it through, make it feel good, bypass it, so on and so forth. It's like, that's no, that's the conditioning of the distorted patriarchy that's telling us that there is no space for your emotions, and sometimes there isn't. But we can't, if we're living a cold and emotionless life in our totality, that's when alarm bells and the dashboard lights start going off. So if we are not generating our own internal energy, then it will just keep on getting siphoned by external pressures. So you have the friend, hey, I need you to do something for me. Boss, can you work overtime? Oh no, I need to miss my Pilates. Now I've got to do Pilates because I have to fit into a size 6. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And then there's nothing left for our soul at the end of the day. So this is calling for that balance to be strong enough internally to be able to regulate externally.
And I mean, when you're regulating externally, you've talked about like having, like you're doing this in an individual for like your individual empowerment, but having a community of people around you, and especially for women, is really, really important. And building those communities and, understanding each other and accepting each other and really having the truth open for everyone and like an open space. How does collective female energy play a role in reclaiming that self-power?
The first time that I experienced a healthy woman in her divine feminine energy, I was blown away. I had never seen two women like this in my life. They felt like goddesses incarnated, and and these women have gone through some, oof, dark ass times, like more than the average. But again, we're not comparing. They have their life, we all have ours. And I could not believe what I was seeing. And that's when I started connecting with how far as women we have fallen, and men as well. But I'll answer that question, but just to know that we are breaking the cycle. This conversation breaks a cycle.
1,000%. And that's what
The
we're
person listening to this who will learn something, take that into their world, is doing the work as well. The fact that this feels like a healthy energy exchange, that breaks the cycle. The landscape is changing enormously. The fact that you wanted to go out and do this, credit where credit is due. You decided to go and do something that that your ancestors would have been, burnt on the stake for doing.
yeah,
So
a lot of the things
this
I
is
do, my ancestors would have been.
But when we're talking about the collective feminine energy, we are looking at men and women. And we are entities where we also have both energy and we also have none. But when we look at the feminine, this is the connecting within. This is connecting so deeply within and and providing to ourselves everything that we were not given in this life, in other lives, across time space continuum. For you, it might be the right to speak, and that's why you feel that you need to do this. And maybe you'll do it for a lifetime, maybe you'll do it for a season until you feel that, that part of you is satisfied. But it's also about coming to a deep gnosis of understanding where are you giving away your power externally at the expense of our internal state. So the times when I wanted, was in certain roles, I wanted to go to sleep. I would have sorry, I had been burning away all day doing shit that I did not want to do, but I felt unconsciously that I had to in order to please, and I wanted to go to sleep, and I was still up on the phone, and I did not have the boundary or the willpower to say, I want to go to bed, it's coming up to midnight, only to be called the next morning at 8 a.m. like nothing ever happened. So, did I know I was giving away my power? No. Something so simple. Let's say you're dealing with someone really annoying and they finally respond to you and it's been 3 weeks. What's our default? Hi, Rachel. Thank you for your email. No, fuck the thank you. I'm not thankful. You
Nope.
are not, you are not doing what you need to do. We have an agreement, which is to be at least competent in this matter. So how do we automatically, thank you, kind regards? No, no, it's not about being rude, but it is about understanding on the micro moments and the macro moments. When are we just leaking out the power? And I'll say one more thing. My partner and I did a journey to my underworld. And the general manager of my solar plexus, so our power center, took the microphone because it's like the manager needs to speak to the CEO and they've never been able to get through kind of
Yeah.
energy. And it was like, there is a massive hole in the floor here, and your power is leaking out across lifetimes. Can you do something about that, please? Because I can't work under these conditions. So we need to realize that we have come in sometimes with rotten infrastructure that also doesn't allow us to just consciously be, I'm powerful and all of this. Sometimes the work is so deep. But until I did not journey to that aspect of myself, I didn't know that I was giving away power like liquid free for all. We patched up the hole in the floor, but we don't want one to open up again.
No, we love that. But you're also working on, like you've said, a lifetime or longer worth of issues that, can be generational and things like that and have, that are coming up when you're doing this. Do you feel like we need to really dive into not just our own history, but the history of women to kind of understand like this isn't just you, this has been happening for generations and this is what worked for them, or this was a different time and so they got burned at the stake and things happened, and where do you think that lies with the history of it all?
Absolutely. The history of our individual, our generations, our ancestry, and for men as well, and the true history of humanity. There are men who have been put into derogatory doesn't even count it, doesn't even the things that men have had to do just because they have had no choice as well. The stuff that women have had to do because they have had no choice under under structures that we call religion, authority, war. These are not natural. These do not exist naturally. Does war exist in the natural world? No.
No.
Do you see tribes of gorillas going against each other and causing murder and havoc and land reclamation and abuse while they do it? No. Do cheetahs do it? No. Do cats? No. These are absurd contexts. So we, you know, we want to heal our collective so that we can all thrive. We do need to start realizing what humanity has done to each other, regardless of the physical container that we've come in. And it's not to say one has been worse than the other. How many communities have been wiped out because of their religious or political beliefs? These are not natural belief systems either. So we are absolutely invited to journey so deep within our own history, whether we want to go, deep into our collective or or in our individual line. But when we have firsthand experience of what has been perpetuated, that's when we start to heal.
I mean, and I just think that it has to be so generational and it's got to be so hard coming from so many different angles of what women have gone through and are going through and the pressures that from society and family and everyone else that, keeps putting on them. When women want to or need to explore deeper within themselves, what is your foundation for the work that they need to do?
The first part is for people to locate themselves. So, where are you right now in the totality of your experience as Rachel? I think a first part is to allow people to just locate and accept where they are, and that can be very difficult. I know I do not always accept the totality of where I am because it don't want to say hurts the ego, but it seems so foreign as well. But that is what it means to look at the truth of where am I right now? And then for some people, the mother wound is not the biggest problem in their life. It may be a problem with instead of the devouring mother, if we're using Jungian terms, it's a tyrannical father. So there are models that can help to illustrate where is the deepest wound here? Where is it? Where does it lie? And then that can start to inform us of what direction, what paradigm do I need, not need to, but can I start exploring? Can I start unfolding? And can I start unraveling? But either way, coming to an understanding of the role of a healthy masculine and a role of a healthy feminine in our lives is important because some of us have internalized one more than the other. For me, it's the mother. For someone else, it may be the father figure. And that could be individually, collectively, community level, universal, so on. So, for example, again, let's say flip it. Let's say someone's had it's the father wound that's really throbbing here. So their internal world is playing out in a way that their inner masculine is so tyrannical and it's kept their feminine under lock and key. So if they try and go through the motions of feminine reclamation, it may have some success, but ultimately it's still being done in this prison setting as well. So one needs to unlock the other, or one needs to dance first before the other can be free to dance as well.
I mean, and I think that's so poignant for like you need to start. I mean, it's at basics, but just basics that a lot of us don't know about or understand or have been influenced by. So I think that's amazing, like the work that you're putting in to do this. And the women that you're helping, I know they have to be feeling it too. And I think that while you're doing all of these things, I mean, it's really truly just helping more women out there because the more that they know that these things exist and that there's different ways than the traditional methods to try to help them through, generational trauma or just current trauma or not trauma at all and just trying to figure out more of themselves and also kind of reach their divine femininity, which I think so many women are very into right now. Like I think with the mental health waves and everything, we've been very keen to be like, wait, we can be feminine and still be these badass bitches that are doing all this stuff, but like we can own our feminine energy. And that's one of the reasons I created Femme Force was because I was like, yeah, I can do all these things, but I'm also a girl and I love being a girl. I was like, it's so much fun. So we need like,
Yeah.
touch into that and just be our authentic selves, but that can be hard sometimes, especially in a world that's very masculine dominated.
Absolutely. And I think a big part of it is knowing when you're putting on which character. So, when Eleanor's going out there and she needs to be a certain character, I have awareness of the character that I'm playing because otherwise you become it. And then you're wearing all of these shrouds and you're like, well, where did I go here? So it's easy to lose ourselves in that. But as you said, you want to be the girl, then so be it. Like you're deciding that. And it's that conscious intent, which is also so powerful.
I mean, it's amazing. So as we wrap up, I do have one last question to ask you that I like to ask all of my guests. But if you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
Oof. So how much time does she have? To reclaim true power. our birthright, our cos this is not the manufactured, man-made financial status. No, no, no. This is the essence of our existence. We're invited to transcend the duality between male, female, masculine, feminine. We need to transcend it in order to see it and become it. So we don't understand a coin by only knowing the head or the tail. We always flip it to the other side to see what's there. So when we understand the principles of gender, and the Kabbalion is a wonderful book of, Hermetic principles for people who want to try, want to go further, then go above it to see how you do already embody both, and they both need support, and that then invites that sacred reunion within. From that point, the world is a beautiful place.
It's your oyster, and I love that. That's really great advice. And it's, starting from the beginning. And, at 16, we need that advice to be like, start now. It's going to be more helpful when you're older if you just start now. If we listen is another thing, but
Yes. My higher self's like, we tried to tell her, she
yeah,
didn't listen.
tried to tell her a lot of things. She didn't listen. It's fine. We're all doing great.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Please pimp yourself out. Tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram, websites, all that jazz.
The Elinor Moshe on Instagram, Elinor Moshe on LinkedIn. Our website is truthofyou.com.au.
Love that. Thank you so much for coming on. Everyone go check it out. We'll be posting this on Instagram and LinkedIn, all the places. So you definitely need to go and take a look at all the work she's doing, and maybe it can help you too, which would be the best gift we could give.
Thank you, Rachel.